So, checking the microphone volume. 1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1. Is there anyone out there? And can you hear me? Hello, hello. Loud and clear. All right. I've got 3 thumbs up and 1 person here to ask me questions. Oh, there we go. 3 people. I've got already 16 questions from my friend Andris. So I'm going to try and get to those in order. And if anybody else has any other questions that they'd like to interject, please feel free to do so at any point, and I will address those as they arise. So, his first question was, is the principle underlying the metaphysics of war related mostly to heroism? I would say to that if there is a metaphysics of war, it is based on private personal property rights. And all other propaganda merely compounds this instinct. So the metaphysics of war is just an amplification of essentially the instinct of self-defense. If there's metaphysics of war at all, that's what it would be. Heroism would just be a layer of icing on the cake for that. The second question he asked, is the blood of heroes closer to the Lord than the ink of scholars and the prayers of the pious? My answer to that is depends on which Lord you would mean. I'm an atheist. I don't think God exists. So there's that. His third question, was the real revolution of the 1960s neurological? I would say in a sense, yes. It was certainly an attempt to transform what had originally been developed as a truth serum into what they had hoped would be a smart drug or a pill that you could pop that would instantaneously give you an increased amount of knowledge or heightened awareness or what have you. Neither of those worked out in the end for those who were attempting to pull them off. So, his fourth question, is this change in behavior affected by space weather? I would say yes. I think everything is affected by space weather here on Earth. Hello to my fans and friends and followers joining me here on the chat. I'm happy to be here too. And hello to all of you. Thanks for being here. I'm going to continue with Andris' questions. Number 5 was the Zohar and Genesis mention a fruit tree yielding fruit whose seed is in itself. This is also studied by Stan Tenen. What does this mean? The fruit tree and the fig tree were ancient Hebrew understandings of the trees of life and of knowledge. The fruit tree being life and fig being knowledge, because as I wrote about in my essay on the tables of the 8th and the 9th regarding fractal and mnemonic types of propagation, which are similar, although the fractal is exclusively self-replicating and terminates into strange attractor empty spaces, whereas the mnemonic is exponential and occurs in the growth patterns of plants. The fractal or fig pattern being related to the tree of knowledge is essentially meaning the tree of knowledge doesn't self-replicate in a permanent fashion. It branches off, but then ends up spiraling into self-termination sooner than the mnemonic pattern, which constitutes the mainstream pattern of the propagation of living living patterns and life forms. So the fruit tree that bears the seed within itself is representing the tree of life or immortality. That would be symbolic of the mnemonic. The mnemonic or phi spiral, whereas the reciprocal spiral, he asks, it would be the mnemonic spiral would be the phi spiral that would be based on negentropic order out of chaos, and the fig or tree of knowledge or fractal pattern would be based on the pi spiral, and would be a slower rate of self-replication and ultimately terminate sooner. Oh, thanks. Thank you. Southern Soldier recognized. Thank you, sir. Sixth question. Out of 16. 12 months of the solar year, 12 houses of the zodiac, 12 knights of the round table, 12 tribes in Judaism, 12 apostles. Why so many 12s? I would say the use of the base 12 system is at least as old as Sumerian astrology, and before that it would predate writing. So it's impossible to determine its actual original origin in written records, because it seems to already exist before the beginning of the keeping of written records. So, seventh question. What is the tree of life for those who grasp it? I would say it's a four-dimensional metaform or hypershape. A cube over time, a single cube over time, or a doubled cube and expanded in the fourth dimension. Question coming in about why Jesus referred to Judas as the 13th. Presumably because when Judas betrayed Jesus, Jesus essentially cursed Judas to be reincarnated as, if I understand the Gospel of Judas correctly, the role that Jesus played himself only during the 13th aeon, which who knows when that would occur. If it was 13 aeons following the lifetimes of Jesus and Judas, then it would have been 2,000 years ago or only 1 aeon ago. So if there's to be a return of Judas as a messianic type figure, then it would be 12 more aeons from now, or 24,000 years in the future. One could calculate it as that if one were so. Marco Randy and text mathematics. I'm vaguely familiar with it. I've been inspired by some of that work, but I'm also aware that some of it is purely numerological, or yes, numerology rather than number theory. I can come back to that more extensively in a few moments, but if I can, I'd like to clear the earlier questions out of the roster. What does the Book of Torah is forever concealed behind the veil of Isis mean? That presumably relates to Blavatsky's Isis Unveiled premise. I don't subscribe necessarily to that being the case, that the veil of Isis conceals the Book of the Torah. Although that may be an integral component to much modern understanding of theosophy, as well as theological and mystery school tradition concepts. I simply think that the Torah is available for everybody, that the veil, if there ever was one, has been drawn back. The internet gives us the access that was promised as the kingdom come a long time ago. Can you explain Atlantean democracy to a layman? I can try. Yeah. Atlantean democracy is a system of global governance comprised of 3 branches of government: judiciary, legislative, and executive, based similarly to the American Constitution of the federal government. And the Senate or legislative branch would have 23 members. The judicial branch would have 13 members, and the executive branch, being within the 23-member Senate, would be comprised of 7 members. Essentially, all of this format of government for a global, potentially a global form of government, depends on 2 things: being without an army to enforce its dictates or its findings or its rulings. Its rulings would have to be enforced, if that could be considered the case, by conscripts per issue of edict, such as if the judicial branch of 13 jurors who are selected by lot from the 23 senators were to find someone guilty of a crime, they would have to themselves enforce the punitive sentencing for that crime. The second premise that Atlantean democracy depends on is having a free energy-based wireless electrical grid economy instead of a cash currency. So essentially, all of the mundane, trivial concerns of our biological existence would be more or less fed and assuaged and satisfied by this system without needing any form of currency exchange for goods or services. For example, a free energy wireless electrical grid system could provide the potential of food replicators through either teleportation or elemental rearrangement, both of which are possible options once one attains that level of technology. That's essentially Atlantean democracy in a nutshell. So, number 10, question 10 was, in the highest levels in Kabbalah, if the highest levels in Kabbalah, are the highest levels in Kabbalah related to self-actualization? And what is the Sephirot of nothingness? I'll pause for a moment from these questions to answer one that's just come in from Joe M. Greetings. Is Enochian magic dangerous or evil? Was Sir John Dee onto something? Dr. John Dee was most likely insane by the end of the reception of the Enochian material, such as it is. He had probably gotten that way not only through senility in his old age, but through attempting to decipher such a complex, cryptographically encrypted system as the Enochian material is at his senior age. It certainly didn't help him in his life any to have done quote-unquote Enochian magic. I think that should serve as a satisfactory warning to those who would like to consider practicing it in modernity. Also, expert cop, XPRT cop, COP. On the subject of mathematics, yes, I'm familiar with that premise about the Illuminati recruiting mathematicians in the form of Cicada 3301, who are looking for cryptographers nowadays and code breakers and open source and free information enthusiasts as well. So ontological mathematics may be something worth looking into. Indeed. If I can come back to the questions that Andris posed, the 10 Sephirot of nothingness, according to the Sefer Yetzirah, are states of consciousness within a system of 32 such states of consciousness. The 32 mystical paths of wisdom that are described in the Sefer Yetzirah are described as different states of consciousness. I can't remember all their names, but the 10 Sephirot are described within that list as well as states of consciousness. They're also described as being 10 Sephirot of nothingness or 10 emanations of nothingness. Essentially, this would relate them with, firstly, the difference between the Ein Sof and the Ein Sof or the bright limitless nothingness and the limitless nothingness levels that are supposedly superior to even Kether, the crown chakra, or sorry, the crown Sephiroth. And also to the concept of the Yetzirah itself, meaning the the radiation or the emanation, similarly to the word Sephiroth, although the radiation referred to in Yetzirah may be more of a path related, like a bolt of lightning, symbology connecting the 10 Sephiroth, whereas the Sephiroth emanations themselves may be more like headlights coming onward at you in the road, shining brighter and brighter in a stationary location. Southern Soldier asks if I've seen a discovery of witches. I have not. It's about John Dee and Enochian magic. I haven't seen it. I should check it out. Expert says, according to the order, the world is in fact a shared dream. Ontological mathematics is the study of the mathematical wave nature of existence. That sounds interesting, but I don't know more about that in that context. I'd have to look into that separately, and then be able to come back with anything substantial about that. The 11th question, Anders asked, who were really the Anunnaki? The Anunnaki were the elder pantheon of Sumer, just like the Titans were the elder pantheon of Greece. So before the Olympian pantheon of Zeus and his cohorts came along, there were the Titans, Kronos, presumably Saturn. Poseidon may have been among them as well, depending on the family trees one uses. They're essentially just the difference between being extraterrestrial alien deities and being terrestrial hybrid, half alien, half human deities. Similarly to the concept of the Anunnaki and the Nephilim in the Enochian material literature, as well as Sitchin's own material. The Anunnaki themselves were simply the more elemental or more cosmic prior elder gods, the former deities of the skies and the space and the surrounding natural environment that were then cast down by the more anthropomorphic set of gods called the Agigi, or later the Nephilim, whom are supposedly hybrids of these elemental 123. Thank you. I just missed it. Hybrids of these elemental beings and people, or early species of people, whatever that would be. The mythology is, while very intricate and very elaborate, it's also very soap operatic and very likely fictional. So the Anunnaki is it's a great subject for a cocktail party discussion. I don't think it's going to change anybody's lives to understand that premise very deeply for us now. His 12th question was, what do you think about the new creation science resurgences, including Sitchin's works, and modern alien theories that seem to lack evidence? I would say that the ancient alien theory is a kind of soft New World Order global religion. It's meant to replace Christianity. So when you have papal observatory uh, astronomers coming out on behalf of the Catholic Church and saying that aliens are our brothers, saying that we should uh, be more accepting of the concept that there are aliens among us even now. I think that that is all kind of a fallback story for dominant religious institutions nowadays to maintain their uh, power structure and their paradigm of authority over others psychically into the future when in fact they've never deserved uh, that right to have that authority. A couple of questions have come in. Southern Soldier asks about Alice Crowley's workings with the Enochian calls of the 30 Aethers. That's in the Blue Equinox, if I recall. And I think it is essentially similar to John Dee's own workings, scrying with a crystal and talking to the so-called Enochian deities, but Dee's included correspondence with Koron Zone and more chthonic and chaotic dark side or even dark magic uh, entities and ideas and intelligences, whereas the so-called angels that John Dee and Edward Kelly contacted were more just trickster-ish and not very angelic, but certainly didn't present themselves as being chaotic magic monsters in the same way that in Crowley's work, those entities that he summoned did. Joe M asks, what do I think about the process church of the final judgment? I do not know about that. I've heard about it, but I don't remember it in context right now, and I couldn't give you a solid answer on that right at the moment. Sorry to disappoint you on that, but I can come back to that at a later time. So if that would be acceptable, I may be able to do that. Returning to Andris's questions, his 13th question was, what do I know about the Maru Foundation? Do I think it's gone as far as providing a claimed scientific framework for religious texts, such as Genesis and the Torah, etc.? Yes, I do. Yes, I believe that what Stan Tenen and the Maru Foundation have found and demonstrated in the context of the Torah in Hebrew is equivalent to intelligent design concepts for creation and proof for a deity that created the cosmos in physics and metaphysics. He's just using a smaller data set in which to search for these patterns, and he's certainly demonstrated that it can be found there in a manifold of different ways. I consider his work essential and beautiful and modern Kabbalah in its truest sense. Given that, let me refer to the questions again. Joe M is describing the process church more in the chat, and Southern Soldier asks if I can speak on Metatron's cube and its significance, as well as my thoughts on sacred geometry. I've done a video actually of that. It's called Basic Meta Geometry, and it's included in a series of videos that were basic and advanced metageometry that is now up as a single video, including both of those, as well as some other aspects of uh, metaphysics, basic metaphysics, on my Complete Metaphysics 101 playlist on YouTube. And Metatron's Cube I discussed in there thoroughly, as well as more about the vortex math in relation to the seed of life and the flower of life, according to Drunvalo and Melchizedek, those systems. Raymond asks, what gets me up in the morning? I don't wake up in the mornings because I sleep whenever I want to go to bed and get up whenever I'm no longer tired, which is rarely at the same time as the sunrise. So Joe M. asks, what religions, beliefs, or philosophies do I most identify with or subscribe to? I think religion is theology, the study and the belief of a theist deity, is essentially just treading water philosophically. We can argue whether or not there is such a thing as God, and we have for thousands of years, without ever being able to demonstrate one way or another absolute proof. I don't think we'll ever be able to demonstrate absolute proof one way or another for any religion, or its belief in God being the absolute truth. So, in terms of beliefs, I try not to have any. I think beliefs are dangerous things. For one thing, they're, as people have pointed out before me, their beliefs are difficult to change. Ideas are less so. I prefer inspiration. Just making people think seems to me to be the best way to connect with, exchange ideas between people's minds. Just trying to encourage people to have their own ideas, even if those ideas turn out to be less than ideal in their teacher's personal opinion. Philosophies, I just like the concept of metaphysics in general. All of the applications to it of cosmology and ontology, existentialism, rationalism, the human experience, as well as epistemology of all of that. I love all of that. I consider myself to be a philosopher because I've read, of all of the materials that I've read by genre, I've probably read the most in the field of philosophy, although I own more books about ritual magic. My thoughts on Gematria, asks Theodore McIntosh. I'm not familiar with the work of Zach K. Hubbard. My thoughts on Gematria are that it is also an interesting way to spin plates, and a wonderful pursuit for those who like to solve puzzles in their spare time. It's better than Sudoku, but I don't consider it to be as important as many people believe it to be. Oh, thank you. Southern Soldier says, happy autumnal equinox. I believe that was a day, 2 days ago. Thank you for that. And happy autumnal equinox to all of you as well. I don't practice Wiccan understandings of the meanings of lunar phases, or of the months, or of the solar seasons, or the weather patterns in general. Although it's clear that there's quite a bit of knowledge out there about ways to predict weather patterns, ways to predict um, the tides, the cycles of the tides, lunar and solar eclipses, etc. Um, since I'm not an adherent of flat Earth, I think that all of that is entirely fascinating, and relates to how unique our planet is in the entire cosmos, because here we can have the elements combine into the format of liquid water. We can have a moon that is exactly the right uh, tidally locked position and distance away from the planet to be able to produce tides in that water on our planet. It's really a miraculous uh, congruence of necessary ingredients that makes up our planet. Billy Mayer, Joe M. Billy Mayer, Billy Meyer. Is that the guy who is the Cat, the Crow, and the Snake song that I like so much? I can't remember. I don't think anybody should be called a fraud outright, unless, of course, they're a politician who wants to go to war. Yeah. My top three philosophers, asks Southern Soldier. Probably Jean-Paul Sartre, Friedrich Nietzsche, and I'd have to say John Locke would be my top three favorites off the top of my head. I'm going to go ahead and get back to the last few questions that Andris asked, while you guys are coming online with some other wonderful claims and questions. If you guys can excuse me for a moment. His 14th question was, given a Gallup poll in 1989 at Princeton Religious Research Center, the survey found that 82% of Americans believed in God, and 44% literally accepted the Genesis account of creation. Since there's no question in that, I'm just going to react with how I feel about it. That's sad. I don't think that there is such a thing as God. So when I hear that 82% of Americans believed in God in 1989, I'm sure it's an underestimate compared to how many believe in God now. I think a lot of people believe in God, but the problem with that is they choose to believe, they choose to define their belief in God in whatever way they see fit. And since no two people are completely identical to one another in both their physiology and psychology, even if they're identical twins or separated Siamese twins, etc., everyone is unique, and therefore no two people will ever have the exact same idea of what is the nature of God, unless there is such a thing as God that proves itself to be. I'm thinking of Billy Nair. That's who I was thinking of, is Billy Nair, not Billy Meyer. I don't know who Billy Meyer is, but Billy Nair had the one-man band show, the Billy Nair Show, and had a great song called "The Cat, the Crow, and the Snake" that was about Lilith. I'm sorry, I mistook that earlier. Uh, Give me just a second there, Joe, and I'll come back to that. I've got two more questions that Andris asked before the chat began, and I'll answer those and then come back to that, if I may. I do not think that's a dumb question. I think that's a very important question. Just one moment, though, please. Andris' 15th question. In all your studies, in all my studies, have I discovered any evidence of the supernatural world that's plausible, i.e. real magic, or is it all psychosomatic? I have found some evidence that there is an effect of mind over matter, but I know enough from having discovered that for myself to know to avoid tinkering with it further. It's similar to saying that mind is like fire and matter is like sticking your hand into fire. You can have an effect by mind onto matter, but it's not going to be a very positive or beneficial effect. It's likely going to be a destructive effect if you attempt to do so. So, sorry to be the bearer of bad news in that regard. 16th and final question. Can you simplify the meaning of the Atlantean rites and what they are intended to achieve in the individual, or any rites from Masonic to Egyptian, i.e., what's the purpose? To sum it up in a simple term, ego death. The main common denominator that all of the esoteric mystery school traditions and secret societies have is practicing and promoting a form of ego death, or a form of experiencing a near-death experience prior to one's actual physical death. In a sense, practicing for the moment of death itself. That seems to be, in most traditions, related to, as the Masons would say, making a good man better. Taking the rough ashlar and working it into the perfect ashlar, meaning giving a person the tools to improve their soul for themselves. That seems to be the common trend in initiatory ritual secret societies and esoteric mystery tradition schools. I'm going to go backwards on these so that we can get to Joe's question last. I think it has the longest likely answer. So I'm going to go with Raymond first. Do I believe in a creator? Thoughts on simulation theory? What I meant by what gets you up in the morning was what motivates you in everyday life. Not a lot motivates me in everyday life. Thoughts on simulation theory are that I think if we are at the phase in evolution where we are creating smaller simulacra based on the larger world around us, and that causes us to question if the larger world around us is similarly a simulacrum of a greater and higher reality that we can't comprehend. It's a Gnostic type of belief in which one thinks about levels or layers of reality, up and down an ascending or descending scale of size. It's a great mental exercise, but I'm not sure if it's an actual description of the reality in which we live. Simulation theory. I don't believe in a creator, meaning a creator deity. The creator of the cosmos, or the creator of humanity, such a deity is unnecessary in my estimations, at best, and harmful to believe in truth, because it surrenders one's sense of personal empowerment over to an external locus of authority that only usually taunts and tempts people, whereas only answering the prayers of the outright delusional. Southern Soldier had asked, in my opinion, what is the Kundalini? That's one take on it. The kalas, or the interior chemical fluids that are produced in the gametes and so forth, being sustained instead of ejected. That's considered blockage of a chakra in some schools, but it's also encouraged in the left-hand path tradition of the Typhonian OTO, if I'm not mistaken, as well as other unorthodox beliefs and practices. If I can just get to one quick question from Fiant Lapides, or Lapides. Besides H.P. Blavatsky, what other charlatan authors ought seekers to avoid? I don't think anybody should avoid any authors, whether they're charlatans or not. Read as much as you can. Read it all. Take it all in. Decide for yourself what you think about it all. I don't think anybody should be censoring or shunning one another. Granted, I do that to some people some of the time because, in truth, it's been done to me quite a bit. Hard not to turn that around and do unto others as has been done unto you. But ideally, I try not to advocate anybody censor or shy away from even any information. All information should be accessible to everybody, and ideally there could be people there to help us understand it if we need that. Now, to come back to Joe M's question, if I may, what do you think about the current trajectory humanity is on? I think there are 3 timelines that are converged into a single timeline right now until the year 2029. And then I believe that 2 of these timelines will split apart and the middle timeline will come to an end. He continues, are we entering a new era of humanity with a change of human DNA? And does the vaccine have to do with this? That much I can't say with certainty because I'm not part of the, let's say, medical planning committees and so forth that decide what to say about such matters. I know that the mRNA aspect of some of the vaccines that have been manufactured recently and that are being encouraged for popular consumption do pose a concern to some people. But I am not a microbiologist myself, and I do not understand the science of it well enough to have a solid opinion on not only what the effects could be down the road, potentially or intentionally, but I can't speak as to what the motivations of this are, because, again, as I say, I'm not privy to that level of access. I don't think I would like to be, if even I were invited to be. I don't think I would like to be making decisions like whether or not the whole population of the planet needs to be, or should be in any way encouraged to all be alike. Anyway. Cosmic Mirror asks for recommendations for, I suppose, books and works of research. I like the Nag Hammadi Library and the Dead Sea Scrolls for an entertaining read. The Epic of Gilgamesh also is hilarious, wonderful, ancient so-called novel that may or may not have been considered a religious text at some point. Um, I've heard great things about uh, Far Eastern Vedic and um, Hindu scriptures. However, I haven't delved into those. I believe they do have many correspondences to ancient Sumerian and proto-biblical legends as well, because they do all describe the same time period during human history. Uh, a long skull hiding in the dome, controlling everything, says Andris. I don't think so. The difference between right and left hand paths, says Southern Soldier. The right hand path is more puritanical and more cleanliness associated, like trying to cleanse one's aura of the cloudy, emotional uh, uh, fog of confusion that seems to be the case in material reality, typically, and so-called uh, keeping clean the body and purging the unclean thoughts and spirits and so forth. Whereas the left-hand path seems to embrace chaos more and lawlessness, lack of rules, or the antithesis of rules in general, and as such embraces often bloodletting rituals that some consider to be unorthodox. Joe asks if I find the Book of Enoch interesting. I did at one point when I read it 20 years ago or so. I haven't read it since then, but it does continue to be an inspiring source of information for many people today, even though when I first read it a long time ago, there were very few people interested in it. Since then, it seems like the number has multiplied in quite a surprising and pleasantly surprising way. I do think apocryphal literature, particularly uh, the pseudepigrapha of the Old Testament, um, and the Gnostic apocrypha of the New Testament Gospel era, are all very important literature to read while we're here on this planet, just because people have considered it to be important throughout history up until now. People still debate on the importance of it now. It's just nice to be able to weigh in on such topics if one likes to have opinions on such things in an informed way. Lots of people weigh in on these things in as informed a way as they can, and people make mistakes while doing this. There's certainly things that I've learned along the way that haven't much changed my earlier theories and speculations, but have altered their conclusions to my mind to some degree. Earlier speculations can often prove to be miscalculations later, but they're still worth pursuing. If one thinks about reading books like Edison inventing a light bulb, there's no wrong way to do it. There's just ways that don't produce the desired effect yet. Just keep trucking, I guess is all I'm saying with finding inspiration in text. Santos Bonacci, syncretism and astrotheology. Only slightly. Santos Bonacci of the Fibonacci sequence, or is that someone nowadays? I'm not familiar. Pataphysics, Andris? I don't know what pataphysics is. Syncretism, I assume that has to do with synchronicity as well, or serendipity, when Santos Bonacci is a contemporary. I take it, Theodore. who's alive now. Okay, thank you, Theodore McIntosh. I don't know who he is, but thank you. Astrotheology, I know, is a valid way of interpreting ancient understandings of not only astronomical alignments, but their mythologies as well, and the meanings of ancient myths involving, for example, the Greek Olympic and Titan deities, as well as the Anunnaki and Igigi of Sumer, and the Vedic and Hindu pantheon. All of these have elements of what's been called astrotheology, as well as there being elements in even earlier pre-written history, burial mound alignments, and etc., such as Stonehenge, from the Kurgan culture prior to the beginning of written history and organized religion. So astrotheology has been around as long as people, at least. It's a fascinating subject. Definitely, people found out, most people that I've met who know what astrotheology is, found out about it through the Zeitgeist Project from several back. The Zeitgeist Project explained it as being key to understanding all the ancient myths. I think it's a good way to start studying the ancient myths, but it may not be the end-all, be-all explanation for them. For example, the 12 zodiac signs and the 12 apostles, etc., things like that. Astrotheology definitely describes a lot of that, but it doesn't necessarily describe absolutely all of it. And some of that may also be based on number theory as well. Let's see. Joe M. asks about Adolf Hitler, the occult, and Hitler's real agenda. I think Hitler was a madman, simply mistaken in his eugenics philosophies, and to the extent that he was into the occult, likely misunderstood as much as he was exposed to personally. Goebbels and in the SS and Hitler's inner circle of early beer hall putsch era comrades and allies seemed to be more interested in such Teutonic myths and symbolism, while Hitler only seems to have wanted to apply these to modern or contemporary politics to gain personal power. So, Andris is asking about pataphysics again. I don't know much about pataphysics, if anything. The imaginary realm additional to metaphysics. I can't say as I've heard of that. My cosmic signature, asks Cosmic Mirror. The Tzolk'in. I know a bit about the Tzolk'in from a long time ago, but I don't know my cosmic signature in that context, if that's what you're asking. And Jacques Fresco, RIP, love you. True story. 13 signs, but 12 traditional. That's true. Joe M says Himmler. Let's see, occultists. All I can say with certainty is that Hitler was hardly the most advanced adept among them. Let's see. This is why people need to watch the Walt Disney video. Lord, no one should ever watch a Disney video. Disney is the end-all, be-all of evil corporations. Hitler and Theosophy, if any. Again, I don't know enough about it. I'm sure that was it Carl Jung who stayed in Nazi Germany and worked with attempting to establish a more of a Nazi based philosophy and psychology for people. I'm not familiar enough with Hitler or theosophy to be able to do a specific comparative rundown between them uh, at the moment. So I'm going to have to let it go on that. It's been about an hour. If anybody would like to ask any last minute questions, I think I may be one to log off for now. But I'd be happy to entertain any other questions anybody has in the last few moments here. Gorillas asks if I meditate. Yes, I meditate. I don't practice activating my pineal gland. There are millions of theoretical and speculative ways of so-called doing that. I have used the the Jose Silva so-called mind control method of meditation myself personally before. I don't do that often, and I don't practice it regularly. Three's Company, Cheers, MASH, or Different Strokes. I'm going to go with, I don't really know. No, none of them. I didn't, yeah. Southern Soldier, have a good night. Thank you. Thank you again, says Joe. Cosmic Mirror, appreciate your time and energy. Thank you. Thank you. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and log off for now. And thank you everybody for being here. Everybody, if they like my work, I would appreciate and hope that you would be sharing it. I'm really not good at doing pitches, so if anybody enjoys what they've seen here, just please feel free to delve deeper into what I've written and what I've posted as videos on YouTube. Thank you very much, and good night, and good morning, and good afternoon, and peace.